Tonight on CFTK-TV News, Terrace RCMP seek a stolen boat, BC parents continue to fight for coverage, and a Canadian man convicted of grandparent fraud.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. We'll begin tonight with our news that's local to the Northwest. The Terrace RCMP have notified the public that they are on the lookout for a boat and trailer that were stolen from the Twin Rivers estate on Apsley Street towards the end of last week. The boat has been described as being a 25-foot-long gray and blue-colored alley craft that features an inboard engine plus a kicker on the back, and it's believed to have been stolen sometime around 9:30 p.m. on July 3rd. The boat's identification number is on its port side. Police have also speculated that the colors on the boat might be different in an attempt to hide it from the authorities. Anyone who has information that could lead to the boat's discovery is asked to call the Terrace RCMP. And a woman that's facing several charges after she was accused of threatening a group of teens with a firearm was scheduled to appear at the Terrace Courthouse earlier this morning. But the court session was moved to a later date, and it is currently unknown as to why the session was moved. It's also unclear what the new date for the hearing will be. The alleged initial incident reportedly happened back on June 24th at around 11 p.m. and occurred on Benner Street while the teens were said to be in the midst of playing a game of manhunt by the woman's property. Luckily, no one was injured, and the Terrace RCMP later ended up searching the home and seizing the firearm while also placing the woman under arrest. The Terrace RCMP are set to get a new detachment commander as the officer who previously held the position is transferring. Inspector Terry Gillespie is on his way to Nanaimo's RCMP detachment after serving as the officer in charge of the Terrace branch for the past 3 years. As for his replacement, Staff Sergeant Mike Bourguignon has been chosen to fill the role. Although it's not currently known when he will make his way to Terrace, the intention is within the next 2 months. Staff Sergeant Bourguignon will be coming over from Grande Prairie, Alberta. And outcry over BC Ferries choosing an international company over a Canadian option for their latest build has continued. Here's CTV's Rob Buffum.
The controversy around BC Ferries contracting with a Chinese state-run company to build 4 new vessels for its aging fleet continues to create rough seas.
We need to find out if the Carney government is on Team Canada or Team China.
A bipartisan federal transport committee Monday voted unanimously to hold a hearing into the $1 billion low-interest loan provided by the Canada Infrastructure Bank, a crown corporation, to BC Ferries to buy the boats. The CEO of BC Ferries, the head of the bank, and federal transport and infrastructure ministers will testify at the hearing.
Rather than building up Canada, we actually have them outsourcing Canadian jobs at a time where our aluminum and steel producers are under unjustified attack.
Victoria Liberal MP Will Greaves supports the review, but is urging the committee to resist playing politics.
Encourage my colleagues to stop using BC Ferries and BC coastal communities as a punching bag to make points that we have heard before and which, frankly, do not serve Canadians.
The Premier today reiterated his disappointment that BC Ferries went with a Chinese company, but diverted his focus to frustration with federal subsidies for ferries in Atlantic Canada.
An unequal ferry system where users in Atlantic Canada are heavily subsidized at a rate of 300 to 1 compared to users of the BC ferry system.
BC Ferries stating again that no Canadian company bid on the project. Chinese shipbuilders make 2/3 of the vessels globally. A European company would have cost $1.2 billion more. Also saying in a statement, the low-interest loan from the Canadian Infrastructure Bank ultimately saves BC Ferries customers and or BC taxpayers up to $650 million in this project. Seaspan, BC's major shipbuilder, has said it wasn't in a position to bid on the contract, but wants to be part of future bids. The opposition, BC Conservatives, say the whole plan should be scrapped.
Take a step back, cancel the contract, and actually get back to the table in terms of building out capacity in BC.
The hearing will take place in the next 30 days. As for the new vessels, the first one of those to be completed will be in the water by 2029. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
Coming up next, breaking down interprovincial trade barriers. Welcome back. Northern Health is warning people who went to a prenatal clinic in Fort St. John on June 27th that they may have been exposed to measles. It says in a social media post that the potential exposure occurred between 10:30 a.m. and 1:15 p.m. that day at the clinic on 112th Avenue. The health authority says anyone who may have been exposed needs to monitor for symptoms such as fever, coughing, runny nose, and inflamed eyes, which is often followed by small white spots in the mouth and a rash that often spreads from the face to the chest, arms, and legs. The BC Centre for Disease Control says that as of Monday, there have been about 100 cases of measles in BC this year, more than 70 of which were in the Northern Health region. More developments now in the story of the young family fighting to have their daughter's medication funded. Here's CTV's Brendan Strain.
We were given a no, but now I feel like, is there a window open again? I don't know.
Jory Fales, the mother of Charlie Pollock, is holding out hope for her daughter, following a crucial Friday meeting with BC's Minister of Health, Josie Osborne.
I felt that Friday we filled in a lot of gaps that were missing, that were not in the CDA report, the specialists that were not contacted.
In the meeting, along with Charlie's family, were Dr. Anika Whiteman, Head of Research and Medical Affairs for the Batten Disease Support and Research Foundation, as well as Lori Brown, the President of the Batten Disease Support and Research Association of Canada.
We shared a lot of new information with her, and we feel like she's taken that on board and will be presenting this to her own committee again to review the new evidence that's come to light.
I think that she was receptive to the new information that Dr. Whiteman presented that she wasn't previously aware of.
Right now for Charlie, every day she is off the powerful drug Brineura could be doing irreversible damage, as she is now 5 days past her regularly scheduled bi-weekly infusion.
We say time is neurons, and the loss of neurons that may happen between now and Charlie's reinstatement of infusions, which is what we're aiming for, those neurons that are lost won't be regenerated.
Dr. Whiteman says the leading clinical experts in Batten disease that she works with throughout the world, all that weren't consulted on the Canadian Drug Agency's report, are condemning BC's decision to defund Charlie's treatments.
This is a poorly informed, poorly researched and unethical decision, and Charlie is still benefiting well from this medicine, and to have it taken away is effectively like a controlled euthanasia.
I think we're all hoping to hear a statement from the province so we can all understand what's the next step.
Today, the Premier of the province was asked if the new information presented to the Health Minister would open the door to have Charlie's infusions reinstated. David Eby didn't close the door completely.
If there's additional evidence, if there's additional information that was not considered, it should be considered.
Dr. Whiteman says the province's decision to be the first jurisdiction in the world to defund a child's Brineura treatment is potentially on the wrong side of history.
While today is about Charlie, this is way bigger than Charlie. This is about a national and global issue that Canada, BC, is setting a very dangerous precedent for.
Brendan Strain, CTV News, Victoria.
Many believe the economic damage of the trade war could potentially be mitigated in one way by opening up trade barriers between the provinces. And as CTV's Rachel Aiello reports, Ontario and Alberta are already on their way.
Being one within all the provinces, that will add over $200 billion to our economy.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford touting the potential of Canada-wide free trade after signing new cooperation agreements with Alberta.
Today's signing marks an historic partnership founded in a mutual ambition to reach the full potential of our provinces.
It's just the latest in a series of federal and provincial moves made to try and limit the economic damage of U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war by easing barriers at home. Ford touting the potential payoff of eliminating this red tape echoed recent messaging from Prime Minister Mark Carney and his ministers.
As much as $200 billion in lost opportunities.
But a new report out from a left-leaning think tank argues that the notion that resolving such issues could lead to more than $200 billion in economic gains is pure fantasy. One of its authors warning Canadians of the potential service and safety trade-offs of less regulation.
They need to be asking questions, right, of their premiers to make sure that we're not risking more than we're gaining, right, in terms of economic benefits.
Meanwhile, one of the authors of the report where the $200 billion figure originated acknowledged politicians have oversimplified his analysis.
It's also an estimate that we put forward that represents the maximum possible gains from fully eliminating all of the internal trade barriers in Canada, which so far no government has put anything on the table to actually achieve that objective.
Turning to the weather, the rainy July weather continues in the Northwest region. Tonight on the North Coast, expect conditions to be partly cloudy with a 40% chance of showers, a risk of thunderstorms early this evening, and a low of 10 degrees. Over the next few days on the North Coast, expect a chance of showers tomorrow, then cloudy, with periods of rain for the rest of the week and getting into the weekend. Daily highs around 15-16 degrees, overnight lows between 9 and 12 degrees. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect a few showers ending near midnight, then cloudy with a 40% chance of showers, a risk of thunderstorms early in the evening, winds from the south at 30 kilometers an hour, gusting to 50, becoming light near midnight, a low of 8 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, expect a bit of sun for the next 2, then periods of rain for Friday and getting into the weekend. Daily highs between 13 and 22 degrees, overnight lows between 9 and 13 degrees. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, it's looking cloudy with a 40% chance of showers this evening and a risk of thunderstorm. Clearing near midnight, winds from the southwest at 20 kilometers an hour, a low of +3 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect the next couple days to be sunny, then showers Friday and getting into the weekend. Daily highs between 18 and 23 degrees, overnight lows between 6 and 13 degrees. Checking your Northwest highways now. On Highway 16, there's construction in Prince Rupert with a detour in effect. There's also bridge maintenance, line painting, and utility work to watch out for. On Highway 37, watch for bridge construction and maintenance, as well as frost heaves and crack sealing. On Highway 37A, there's paving operations, as well as a section with falling rocks. On the Niska Highway, they're doing line painting as well as road sweeping. And on Telegraph Creek Road, watch for muddy sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a Canadian man busted for scamming seniors. Thanks for staying with us. 2 pilots who died after colliding mid-air over southern Manitoba this morning were students at a flight school. Adam Penner with Harv's Air says the pilots were trying to land the 2 planes at the same time and crashed near a landing strip south of Steinbach. Mounties say the pilots were pronounced dead at the scene and there were no passengers. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada has been notified. The man accused of being the ringleader of a sophisticated grandparents scam has been arrested. Gareth West has been wanted by Canadian and U.S. authorities since March and could now face extradition. CTV's Matt Gilmore explains.
The rough estimate is a $2 million investment.
He presents himself online as a wealthy real estate investor. But if the allegations against him are true, much of Gareth West's money was really coming from an elaborate conspiracy. to defraud unsuspecting seniors across the United States. West is one of 25 Canadians formally accused in a U.S. federal indictment of running a grandparent scam, where fraudsters trick individuals into believing a loved one is in legal trouble and in urgent need of bail money. Jeff Horncastle is with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre.
At that point, a second suspect normally comes on the phone claiming to be law enforcement or a lawyer, requesting for the payment, typically in cash.
What's up, guys? My name is Gareth West.
23 of the 25 defendants were arrested back in March, but West and one other have been at large since. The RCMP says West was arrested on July 4th in the town of Saint-Colomban, about an hour north of Montreal. Police say he did not resist arrest and is now facing possible extradition to the United States. In the indictment, the U.S. attorney in Vermont alleges West was one of the leaders of the conspiracy that defrauded seniors of $21 million over a 3-year period starting in the summer of 2021. West is also accused of money laundering and, if found guilty, could face up to 40 years in prison. Last year, police raided 2 buildings in the Montreal area allegedly being used as call centers for the scam, including this one in Pointe Claire.
We discuss scams in general, how they come from overseas for the most part, but this it proves that it's not always the case, and highlights the importance of reporting to your local law enforcement and to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre.
He says the grandparent scam alone costs Canadians a reported $33 million every year. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Anti-Fraud Centre estimates only 5 to 10% of fraud gets reported.
Always try to make the outgoing phone call, especially when there's a request for money or personal information.
Matt Gilmore, CTV News, Montreal.
U.S. President Donald Trump's impending tariffs on copper are likely to affect Canada. Natural Resources Canada data shows the U.S. accounted for 52% of Canada's copper export value in 2023. It's estimated Canada has less than 1% of global copper reserves, and it ranked 12th in global copper production. Trump announced 50% tariffs on copper imported by the U.S., but did not say when the tariffs would begin. Turning to the markets now, Canada's main stock index fell more than 100 points to cap off today's trading session, weighed down by losses in the basic materials sector, while U.S. stock markets were mixed. The Canadian dollar fell 1/10 cent. The price of gold dropped $25.90. Oil rose by 40 cents. Natural gas dropped 5 cents. Aluminum was down $20.50. In Toronto, the TSX was down close to 117 points. The Venture Index was down almost 7. In New York, the Dow Jones was down 165 points, and the Nasdaq was up by 6. Still ahead, evacuation order in northern Manitoba. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says more than 160 people are still missing days after flash floods that killed more than 100 people across central Texas. Abbott spoke Tuesday at a news conference after taking a helicopter tour of the affected area. He said many of those who are not accounted for were staying in state's hill country but did not register at a camp or hotel. Renewed evacuations continue in parts of northern Manitoba as wildfires continue to threaten several communities. CTV's Alex Karpa has all the latest on the wildfire front from Manitoba.
Large plumes of smoke seen near Leaf Rapids in northern Manitoba. The over 300 residents of this small town are now being forced to evacuate.
It's kind of hectic, I guess. We got the notice this morning. By 10 a.m. tomorrow, we have to be out of here.
A growing fire southwest of the community is now threatening hydro infrastructure and could cut power to the community. Longtime Leaf Rapids resident Elizabeth Charrier has been preparing for the evacuation for a few days, but says she's dealing with a lot of anxiety.
It's still stressful because we don't know, with everything else going on in Manitoba right now, we don't know what is it like for us when we get there. Are the accommodations there for us?
The situation is rapidly changing hour by hour here in Manitoba. There are 81 active fires throughout the province, and over a dozen of those fires are either threatening or impacting several communities. The town of Lynn Lake is now mostly evacuated with only essential workers remaining. Mayor Brandon Dulowich says the community needs more firefighting resources.
There's major fires threatening several communities in the north here, and it sounds like some higher priorities than us, so that's not reassuring news.
Tataskoya Cree Nation continues to deal with out-of-control wildfires, which destroyed at least 7 homes in that community. Northern Manitoba's largest city, Thompson, declared a state of emergency this morning. And several other First Nations communities in the region are continuing medical evacuations, preparing for potential worsening situations.
The only place that's not on fire is the east of us, so which is, but we don't hardly get any easterly winds. It's mostly north, west, or south. So we get a lot of smoke.
A troubling time for so many in the north, where 6,600 Manitobans remain out of their homes for now. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
British Columbia is proposing to ban the breeding, sale, and future ownership of all exotic and non-domestic cats. The proposed changes would ban servals, ocelots, and European wildcats. And finally tonight, 5 years out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the trickle-down effects are still being felt by some. Here's CTV's Vanessa Wright.
The pandemic is fading, but its impacts are proving to be long-lasting, particularly when it comes to the underdeveloped social skills of Gen Z, as the expectation to move from online to in-person became a reality.
Even though I knew people before, it was strange to come and talk to them.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Simon Sherry says the effects felt by Gen Z, people born between 1997 and 2012, have much to do with the restrictions that were in place during COVID.
They were exposed to prolonged remote learning. On top of that, they're a generation very much involved in screens, which doesn't promote your social and emotional competencies in real time.
As a result, etiquette specialist Julie Blake-Homo says important soft skills like a strong handshake were never taught or adapted. Same thing goes for social skills outside the workplace.
Dining etiquette, a lot of them find themselves at a power business lunch or breakfast or dinner, and they're paralyzed because they don't know, is that my bread plate? Is it okay to clink wine glasses?
So how can you tell if you may be in need of workplace etiquette?
If after an event, a meeting, you're constantly thinking back, oh, yeah, that wasn't great, eh? I wish I would have known better.
Como says her Gen Z clients have expressed a willingness to learn.
And I do believe that the soft skills, that the etiquette will help all, not only Gen Z employees, but all of us.
It's going to be difficult and a little stressing, but the more we'll do it, the more it's going to be easy and normal to us.
Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Halifax.
That's our news for now. For more local news, visit us at cftktv.com. All of our stories and newscasts also go up on our YouTube page. Thanks for watching.